It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? The latest breaking updates on HawgSports is it's tournament time. Arkansas Razorbacks and Hawaii Warriors getting after it today at 3:25 p.m. from Portland. Connor Goodson's on location. He's going to join us here in a little bit. We'll talk some spring football as well, get your questions, but we're just going to get right to it. All that and more on today's episode of HawgSports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle, get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. HawgSports Live, driven by the Crain Automotive Team. Woo.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
All right, so Arkansas basketball, or excuse me, let's start with baseball, just to get a couple things out of the way. We're not going to talk a whole lot baseball. Kevin Bohannon is actually going to be out this next week. He's got a personal issue he's dealing with, so we'll be a little bit limited on the baseball coverage. But Arkansas is headed to Columbia for a 6 o'clock game on Friday. That'll be on SEC Network Plus. The Saturday game will be at 3 o'clock, and then the Sunday game will be at 12:30. All of these games on SEC Network Plus. Arkansas coming off of a 2-game series sweep over Northern Colorado, 13-2 in 8 innings on Tuesday and 9-4 on Wednesday. That's pretty much all the baseball you're going to get. Arkansas football with practice number 3 slated for the day. Yesterday we got to talk to David Johnson, Morgan Turner, a couple of the student athletes as well, Sutton Smith and Jaden Platt. It was interesting because there were, I think, 4 media members in the press conference because everybody's at basketball. I will be at football practice today, so we will have football coverage today in addition to all the stuff coming out from basketball, but it's unfortunate because football practice is at 4:15. As we know, the basketball game starts at 3:25. I will be going back and forth and watching basketball, obviously. I am tempted to just say, screw it. Let me know in the comments if I should say screw it and just sit home and watch basketball. But I know that there is a job to be done, and I picked to work in sports, and so sometimes you miss out on things. But do plan to go to football today. That is practice number 3. We'll talk about more football towards the end of the show here, but we're going to get into basketball. You got Brad Nessler, Wally Zerbiak, Seth Greenberg today on the call for the game. I've got, right now we've got Nebraska and Troy and TCU and Ohio State going. TCU is up on Ohio State. Nebraska and Troy are tied. Got the split screen going. What a time. It's vasectomy season. A lot of guys schedule their vasectomy around March Madness so they can get, leave from work, watch some games. The worst thing is when you do that and your team gets bounced early in the season or early in the tournament. So Nick Pringle is out. Not out, excuse me. He's questionable. That has caused me to revise my bracket a little bit. This is the official bracket. I can put it up now since games have started. We've got Duke and Arizona in the championship game. I have revised this a little bit just because of the Pringle uncertainty. I actually had Arkansas beating Arizona, a little bit of the hard end of that one. But if Nick Pringle is not available, it gives me some pause there. So I'll just go over my Sweet 16 real quick. I've got Duke beating Kansas. I've got Michigan State beating UConn. So Duke, Michigan State in the Elite Eight. And then I've got Florida and Vandy, a rematch from their last game. Obviously from their last game. Illinois and Houston. I've got Florida avenging that loss to Vanderbilt. I've got Houston beating Illinois and Florida and Houston in the Elite Eight. I've got Arkansas and Arizona. I've got BYU, Purdue, Michigan, and Alabama, Virginia, Iowa State. And then my Elite Eight is Duke, Michigan State, Florida, Houston, Arizona, Purdue, Michigan, Virginia. Final Four, Duke, Houston, Arizona, Virginia, and then I've got Duke and Arizona in the championship game with Duke winning it all. I mean, two lost teams. It's hard for me, for anybody to knock out a 1 seed. I tend to go like who hadn't done it in a while. Duke, every time they've been a 2-loss team, they have made the championship game, I believe. I think 98, 99, they made it. They lost. They won it all that first year with Coach K, and so I'm going with Duke. I've got some of the stars going far, like Boozer and obviously winning it all, and I've got BYU advancing. For Arkansas, I wanted to put them in the Final Four, and I did initially, and I went back and changed it just because of the Pringle news. But hopefully I'm dead wrong on that. All right, we're going to bring Connor Goodson in. Connor joins us on the Ozarks Go hotline. If you're looking for fast, reliable, consistent, steady internet service that just works from a local company, and by local I mean it's available in Northwest Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma, then check out our friends over at Ozarks Go. 479-684-4900, where you'll talk to a local person. You're not going to get shipped off to some call center, or go to ozarksgo.net/hawg. That's HAWG. And hey, when you call and sign up, tell them Trey Biddy sent you. Connor, you're in Portland. You're about to head over, watch some of these early games. What's been your experience so far?
It's been great. I got here yesterday, right as, the practices and media day was kind of starting off, and get to the arena the day before and just feel the vibes in the atmosphere of the arena. I got to mess around with some of the balls to do my investigating to see if the balls were overly inflated, like a lot of other host sites had been, and things like that. So it's just good to get a feel for the guys. And I stayed and watched the teams that practiced afterwards too, just kind of get a feel for them. And it's just a fun time of year, man. I'm excited to get over there again today, and hopefully it's an Arkansas win. The Nick Pringle news is big, but I still like Arkansas in this matchup.
Real quick on the balls, I like those Evo NXT balls. I mean, I like the bright orange, first of all. I think it's easier to follow when you're watching on TV. The NBA ball's kind of brown. I have the Wilson Evolution that, a lot of teams use, a lot of high school teams use and stuff. But the NXT are supposed to be a little bit softer, a little bit better shooter ball. Yeah, you experience that? I don't think I put my hands on one of those.
They are really, really soft. The problem is I think that the recommended PSI on the ball is a little bit too high to where you do get, when you get up there when you inflate it too much, then it gets a little crazy to where you have these crazy ricochets. Some guys have trouble controlling it. It dribbles a little bit differently. And then also those courts, man, getting on the court has a little bounce to it. It feels brand new. Like I don't know if they refurbish it or if they make a new one every year, but that combined with the ball and sometimes too much air in the ball can really lead to some crazy stuff, like some crazy bounces off the rim, rebounds going where people don't expect them to, and things like that. And I think that kind of lends itself to some upsets. But I do like the Wilson Evo Next. I think when you get it too aired up, it causes some problems. And when a team that relies on great shooting like Arkansas does with Darius Acuff, you got to hope that you get the right ball that doesn't mess with the shot too much. Yeah,
well, I watched some of your video from practice yesterday. It looked like they were making them pretty good from 3-point range. And so let's get to the Pringle stuff, because you were at practice yesterday. You reported that, hey, Pringle's standing over here. He's got, I think you said he had a sleeve on his leg.
Yep.
What's going on there? And he's listed as questionable on the report last night. Are we not going to see Nick Pringle? And I mean, obviously Pringle has had his ups and downs, a lot of downs, but he's at least been a presence inside. How big could this impact Arkansas?
It could be a massive impact, especially when you consider that Hawaii has two really good bigs and they have size. Unlike a lot of mid-majors, Hawaii actually has a 7-footer in Isaac Johnson who can cause you problems inside. They got a couple other pieces that are really, really tall. They're 26 in the country in average height, which if you put them in the SEC, that's only behind Missouri and Florida. These guys have size, and they're going to try to get Arkansas in foul trouble. They're going to try to pound it inside. So you need a guy like Nick Pringle to bring that physicality to at the very least, have 5 fouls to give, because you could get into some trouble. And if it is one of those grinded out kind of slogs where you're both teams are just trading free throws, you know that could present some issues. We saw against Alabama, Arkansas had to dig deep onto the bench and bring some guys out who aren't used to playing. If it gets to that, then you might see Hawaii pull off an upset like that. But yeah, the Pringle stuff is big. From what I had been told, it could be a deal with the hamstring, and it could just be a precaution. We could very well see him give it a go. I think if this was any other game, like if it was an SEC tournament game, you'd probably see him take a game off. But we'll see. If he's good to go, they're going to let him go. But I definitely think it's one of those things that will probably hamper him if he does get out on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at Hawaii's roster, they've got 5 players who are 6'8" or better, including Toomey, who's 6'10", and then Big Fish Isaac Johnson, who goes 7 foot 230. What do we know about Johnson? I mean, you get a nickname like Big Fish, yeah, you must be pretty good. He averages 14.1 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game.
Yeah, I mean, he's really, really skilled, and he's kind of the guy that stirs the drink for them at both ends of the floor. When you look at their unique defense that they play, it's been labeled a no-help defense, but it's really just they're not going to overhelp, is what Coach Gano said yesterday in his media availability. But when you do see Arkansas throw ball screens at them, Isaac Johnson's going to kind of be at the nail. He's going to be in that drop position. And he's going to be the guy that's kind of, keys on, if the big rolls or if he pops, it's kind of Isaac Johnson's the important piece in that puzzle to kind of really, really set their defense up and how they want to do things. So at the offensive end, he wants to get to the foul line, and he's really good when he gets to the foul line. Over his last 10 games, he's shooting 93% from the free throw line. And he has one of the better free throw attempt rates of anyone in the country. So he's going to try to get Arkansas in foul trouble. He's going to foul bait. He's going to slow it down. They're going to work it inside. He can step out and extend his range a little bit, but he's not the most, knockdown sniper type guy. Like, he's not going to go out there and hoist 7 threes and make 4 or 5 of them consistently. He's a guy that he only steps out to really keep you honest. So I think Hawaii's really hell-bent on getting it inside the paint and working it at the rim, and hopefully that for them it lends itself to some really some really good free throw attempt numbers, because that's really how they're going to win this game, is if you get Arkansas in foul trouble and get to the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Hawaii is shooting 46.5% from the floor. Arkansas is 50.2%. Arkansas has been a better three-point shooting. Hawaii is at 31.3%. Arkansas at 38.8%. Both are very similar free throw shooting teams in terms of number of attempts, and both right around 74%. Hawaii has been better on the boards, better on the offensive boards and defensive boards. Arkansas, the higher assist team. Better steal team, more blocks, fewer turnovers for Arkansas. So, but obviously playing in quite different level of competition. The 2 games that Hawaii have played against major conference teams, Oregon, they barely lost at Oregon to open the season, and then Arizona State beat them. Those are the only other teams that they played, on the major conference level.
Yeah, and UC Irvine, I think, is a lot of the brackets.
3 games against UC Irvine, this season.
Yeah, they were the team that they had them penciled in as the representative from the Big West. So Hawaii kind of snuck in there. But I think that with Hawaii, the way that they play defense, they have a lot of experience too. Like, they've been here before, and those are kind of the ingredients that you want to have when you're picking upsets in this time of year, is a team that's really, really experienced.
So Arkansas is minus 15.5 on Bet Saracen right now. Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. What do you think? You like the Hogs in this? The over/under is 158.5.
What was the line again? What is it at
15
right now?
and a hook. 15 and a hook for Arkansas. It just dropped to 15. Just now dropped to 15. So
I could see this being a 10, 12-point game where Arkansas maybe they're playing around with them for a little bit and they finally pull out and get some separation there towards the end and make it a double-digit win. I do think without Pringle, it can play out a bunch of different ways. I talk about Hawaii's defense. Arkansas's got a guy who's tailor-made to beat this defense in Darius Acuff, who can make shots from all over the floor. If he gets going and he goes for 40, 50 points, Arkansas is going to blow him out. But I do think I'm going to be on the safe side, and I'm going to take Hawaii to cover. And I think that over/under, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think that you kind of hit the over here. Arkansas doesn't really play a lot of defense, and Hawaii turns it over a lot, but they're capable of scoring points too. So I like this getting up and down the floor, and kind of pushing the pace and pushing the score up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. 15.5 points to me is a lot. Yeah, not that they can't do it. I could kind of see Arkansas, kind of easing into this thing, and you still got a lot of youth for Arkansas, and there are a lot of young teams obviously nowadays, but you do have a lot of youth that you're relying on. You got some guys that were experienced in their Sweet 16 run last year, but I could kind of see Arkansas maybe not getting off to a great start, but taking care of business, and I do think it's going to be that over is going to hit. So yeah, Bet Saracen, Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. If you sign up at Bet Saracen right now, and you sign up and you place $25 on your first bet, and you use the promo code Biddy 250, that's capital B, lowercase IDDY 250, you will get $250 back in bonuses that you can use to bet on at Bet Saracen. So a pretty sweet deal for signing up on Arkansas's #1 sports betting app.
Arkansas's Fab Five for Bet Saracen.
Hey, Joe, what do you think was the best shot in Arkansas basketball history?
Was it U.S.'s half-court shot versus the national champions in the big dance? Or maybe it was Scotty's shot in '94 to win it all.
That's a jump ball for me. I'm not even going there.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, me too.
Bet where most Arkansans bet.
Bet where we bet.
Bet Saracen.
All right, Connor, how's your bracket look? Who have you got in the Final Four?
Well, I did a few different brackets. I think in the most common one that I did, I have Duke, Houston. It's not all chalk. I have Duke, Houston, Michigan, and then there's Michigan, Iowa State's the most common. I think that's a tough game because I really, really like Iowa State, but I really, really like Michigan. And I don't want to go chalk, but it's just hard. Like, I really like Arizona too, and I think that if Arkansas can get by Hawaii and then whoever's waiting for them in the second round.
How did it end up last year? How was
it
the
didn't
bracket
end up that great.
Year? No, who ended up in the Final Four last year? It all one seeds, right?
Yeah, it was all chalk. And I think that there's even bigger separation between the one seeds and the rest of the seeds this year. So it's hard not to go chalk. But
I feel that way too. I feel like when you got some teams that are like in their losses have been just like razor thin. It's not like they just like laid an egg at any point in the season.
And like Duke has some injury issues, and I think that if they were in any other region, it would be way more enticing to pick them, but I just don't see any teams in their region giving them that much trouble, until they meet someone in the Final Four or anything like that. So it's like, you don't want to pick chalk and you think that there's going to be an upset, but it's just like, I feel like that, looking at it from an analyst point of view, it's just like, I just don't see any of these teams getting it done, Yeah. And so that's why you kind of have to go chalk.
I tend to look for storylines. Yeah. What Purdue's the #1 offense team in the country, basically. Yeah. Iowa State is the #1 defense team in the country. Like that to me, I don't have that, but that to me is, an interesting matchup, UConn, the historic power, even though Kansas is a 4 seed, I think they're in Duke's bracket, having them meet up. Teams that have great freshmen like ACUF or BYU, teams like that, making have guys that are, star power guys that are going to get really highly drafted, making a run in the tournament, those kinds of things kind of influence my bracket a lot of the times. I don't always just go with that, but sometimes I like to go the opposite. I can see they clearly matched up, a former coach with his former team, to meet in the second round or something. So I'll say, nah, that's not going to, I'll ruin that for him in my bracket or something. All kinds of different crazy strategies. I like to
think I'll be which mid-major could I see really going on a run? Who's going to be the darling this year? And I'll kind of do that in my head and play it through and pick different scenarios like that. I did pick Troy to upset Nebraska in a couple brackets because I don't know. I feel like the men of Troy could get it done, but it's not looking too great right now. So there's
I don't know that I have any just dramatic upsets. I formed this opinion that Louisville, every time they play a tough team, it seems like they had lost. I don't know what. Maybe that was just an early season thing I haven't followed, but I do have South Florida upsetting Louisville. That would be one I feel pretty decent about, actually.
Joseph Pinion is going to be the name everyone's talking about.
Yeah, Joseph Pinion
will be the guy everyone's talking about.
It was cool because right after the SEC championship game, I know you didn't get to see it because you were in Nashville, but right after the SEC championship game, South Florida came on, and there's Joseph Pinion. It's good to see him having success. He looks like he's definitely grown up a little bit. He's got the mustache and he's a little tatted up, So
good kid.
Yeah. All right, Connor. Appreciate you. Anything else to add? You heading over there right now?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna
the Moda Center. Is that what they call it?
Moda Center. Yep. It's literally a 6-7 minute walk from the hotel, which is nice. So I'm gonna head down there. I'll probably go try to find something to eat before, and check out some of these first round games on the television, and then get all settled in for what should be a fun day. Yeah.
Well, hopefully at the media area you get more than a voucher that doesn't even cover the cost of a pretzel.
It's vouchers this year again. So that's what I'm.
I haven't used vouchers like this. I've got a $12 voucher. And
I have one of those too.
I need to turn these back in, but
I should have tried to use it in Nashville. See what they said. I got this voucher.
Right. All right, Connor. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Trey.
All right, everybody, that's Connor Goodson. Follow him at Connor Goodson on X and read all of his content at HawgSports, HawgSports.com. Arkansas is 2-0 versus Hawaii all time. They met twice in the 77-78 season. Isn't that interesting? Playing on back-to-back days, December 1st and 2nd. The Hogs won the game 78-53 and game 2, 79-60. This comes from the University of Arkansas notes. Arkansas is 2-1 all-time in Portland and at the Moda Center. The Razorbacks played the 2017 PK 80 Phil Knight Invitational in November of 2017, beat Oklahoma, lost to North Carolina, and then turned around and beat UConn. Arkansas has won 5 straight, 10 of its last 12, 13 of its last 15. Again, it feels like ever since you go back, 15 games ago, and Arkansas is a 4 or 5 seed. And they win 13 of 15, and they're still being talked about, going in as a 4 or 5 seed going into the tournament. And then they win the tournament, and it's still they're probably a 4 seed. What did Arkansas have to do to get to a 3 seed? Maybe beat Alabama in that double overtime game. But, it's kind of frustrating to me just to see Arkansas doing all this stuff, and it's just you're a 4 seed. You're maybe a 5 seed. You're a 4 seed, After a 6-3 January, Arkansas was 5-2 in February and is 5-0 in March. In Cal's 2 years at Arkansas, the Hogs are 20-8 in February and March. Not bad. Getting hot in March is nothing new for Cal's teams, considering during his career, he's 62 wins in conference tournaments, 62-17 at 78.5%, 59 wins in the NCAA tournament. 59-23, 72% in the NCAA tournament, 136 wins, 136-46 at 74.7%, including conference tournaments, NIT, and NCAA, 182 wins in March and April. He's 182-63 at 74.2% in March and April. I like having Cal on Arkansas' side. Darius Acuff leading the way, of course. a consensus first-team All-American. I'd like to tell you about our friends over at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry. Blakeman's is proud to be the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks, and I would encourage you to look them up in person. Go visit them at their brand new location, 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers, 72758. It's their brand new store. It's just an incredible venue and just great lines there. Blakeman's Fine Jewelry has some of the finest jewelry that you're going to find anywhere. The best jewelry store in the state, the best people. Big Razorback fans, as I mentioned, the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. I know a lot of the people that work there, really good people. But you can also shop them online if you're not near there. But if you are in Northwest Arkansas, I encourage you to go check them out. But you can go to BlakemansFineJewelry.com. You can schedule an appointment there. You can shop. They offer delivery. So a lot of different options for you. Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, where Arkansas gets engaged. Exceptional jewelry and personalized service from our friends over at Blakeman's. You guys want to talk a little bit about football? I know the NCAA tournament's going. Right now you've got, spoiler for those recording any games, you've got Nebraska up on Troy 34-21, and then you've got TCU over Ohio State 39-28. With 17 minutes to play in that game. I actually made a late change in that one and moved Ohio State ahead of TCU, but I got them both getting bounced in the second round, so it's not that big of a deal. I did 3 brackets this year. This is my main bracket, as you can see. It says main bracket. Happy Bo. Okay, spring football. Yesterday was Arkansas's second day that they had to be, just in helmets, no shoulder pads. They'll strap on shoulder pads today. They'll be, I think it's just shoulder pads, maybe leg pads too, but they strap on pads today, so there'll be a little bit more pads popping. People have asked me questions like, what do you think about the defensive line or this? And all I can really tell you on defensive line, offensive line is just how they look, how they move, quickness, stuff. Can't really tell you much more than that. So I'll look for things like pace, people loafing, what's the organization like, what's the speed like, how do they look just off the cuff. And there are some things I really like. I've mentioned the defensive line several times. Just a lot of those, 6'2" to 6'5", 6'4", 290 to 315, 320 body types, not that huge, massive nose tackle type unless you're looking at maybe Danny Bill or Anthony Kennedy, the 2 freshmen. But they've just got a lot. I don't think they're going to have a problem getting 8 guys on the defensive line of quality. And they really had a problem with that last year. And by that, I mean like the 3-man front. So kind of like a 2 deep and then a couple more guys that you feel good about. And, also the jack, you've got, it feels like at the jack, they want guys that are 240 pounds. Charlie Collins is 6'5", 240. Steven Souls is 6'2", 235. Javonte Waller is 6 foot, 239 or something. So no matter what height you are, it's like all 240. I don't know what that is. Quarterbacks. I think DJ was able to stay with the former players longer, and I think he said Tuesday that A.J. Hill to him had a better performance. And we get to watch about an hour of practice, so I didn't see anything. What I noticed about the quarterbacks with KJ is, to me, he throws the most consistent SEC velocity, tight spiral out of all the quarterbacks. The most consistent ball comes from him. Now, I'll say this. Last spring, when I'm out there watching, and it's Taylon Green, Green had some throwing motion issues, kind of a low release and stuff, but the ball always came out nice and tight, good velocity, nice spiral. Grayson Wilson threw a nice ball. KJ throws a nice ball. Madden Iamaleava, I will admit, last year, after about 7 practices or so, I'm looking at Iamaleava and I'm like, this guy's probably the next starting quarterback at Arkansas. He just very sudden. Now, he transferred out after the spring, went to UCLA, so that's not happening. But what stood out to me about Iamaleava is just his suddenness. Just like when he saw where he wanted to go, the ball was out. He's not that he's like super fast straight line speed. The way he moves, I really liked in a quarterback. But he's not here anymore. That's not to say KJ Jackson can't be a good quarterback or, AJ, but the balls that are coming out of these quarterbacks' hands are not as consistently tight spiral, aside from probably KJ, not as consistently tight. Okay. AJ Hill has a ton of potential. He is very big. He's lanky. I don't know that he's like a straight line speed guy either. I'm sure he's pretty mobile, but he's athletic and everything, but I don't think he's like a guy that just, is going to take off. KJ is not really a super fast straight line speed guy either. But what I noticed with AJ is he's got some mechanic issues, just a little bit loose. He tends to take the ball down here to his hip. Okay. You can get away with that in college. You don't see much of that in the NFL. There might be a guy here or two, but there have been other, I can remember Michael Bishop, maybe one of the first times I can remember like people talking about having kind of a loop in your throwing motion. Michael Bishop, Kansas State, like they won 11 games when he was a starting quarterback. But he kind of did the same thing, kind of brought it down. It was something he was going to work on. Tim Tebow, had mechanic issues and won the Heisman Trophy. When the NFL draft came along, he was trying to work on it because Tebow kind of was like, I don't know, it was just kind of a weird throwing motion, kind of a windmill type of deal. But what you really want as a quarterback, you want more on plane. Now it doesn't have to be perfect like this, or, Tom Brady even kind of takes it back just a little bit, like, nose down a little bit. But you ideally, like Drew Brees, I always thought through it. Like Drew Brees, when he takes it back and he brings it back through, like everything is just so in line, He's got like at a 90-degree angle, which again, you don't have to be right there, but pretty close on your takeaway. This is more of a baseball deal, like where he's, and it's good for throwing a baseball, but for throwing a football, this is just wasted motion, and it creates a long wind up and a slower release getting the ball out, and probably takes a little bit of, the consistency out of the ball. But you really want it to be more right here, before you raise up. You don't want to do like this. You don't want to just raise it up. This is more of a hitch. This is what plagued Ty Story for a while. For some reason, he developed a hitch when he was in college and had to work that out. But when you're doing like this, kind of more of a shot put, Danny Warfel style. Again, you can have this in college and have success. I mean, I just talked about two guys that had mechanic issues and won the Heisman Trophy. I don't know right now is the time to like work on that if he's competing for the starting quarterback job, because it takes a lot of work. The old adage is it takes 3 hours to fix, 1 hour doing it the wrong way. But Hill has a lot of potential. I'll say KJ Jefferson, when he got to Arkansas, hitch, raised it straight up like this. And that was something he had to work out in his mechanics. So it happens, even for guys on the college level, it happens. But I did notice that about AJ, and sometimes it causes him to throw some wobbly balls. It doesn't mean he can't be the starting quarterback this year. It just means, if you're talking when his, pro, he says he's a starting quarterback and, you're talking about him at the next level, that'd be something people will criticize. So I do think it's those two guys, unless we go out there today and Braden Fuller is QB1. And I base that on just what I've seen, just from the guys out in practice. But AJ throwing the ball with the first group on Tuesday, KJ throwing the ball with the first group on Sunday, and then switching. It wasn't KJ going to the end of the line and Braden Fuller's number 2 now. It was those two guys switching. And Fuller was actually switching with Cade Trotter with the 3-4. So that kind of makes me think that maybe they're looking at these two guys as being the main competitors. So, talked about the defensive line, some of my observations there. I'm anxious to see these guys like hit based on their weights. I think, you'll have, again, this is just the base defense, but you're going to have a nose guard. zero technique. You have like 2-4-eye. You can call them defensive ends. You can call one a defensive tackle, one a defensive end, whatever you do. Different guys do it differently. But one of the guys that's going to be opposite the Jack, who is the hybrid linebacker defensive end, like Charlie Collins, Jamonte Waller, Steven Souls, he's going to be opposite the other guy. You'll have like Quincy Rhodes is technically that guy on the opposite side of the line from the Jack. He's what you would say would be the defensive end if you just call one a defensive end. A little bit lighter. Quincy goes 6'6", 277. I think that Caleb Bell at 6'3", 283, Keandre Johnson, 6'3", 282, Trent Sellers at 6'4", 265, and Colton Yarborough, who's a freshman, 6'5", 258, kind of fit more at that spot. And then you've got Osborne, who's 6'4", 301, Hunter Osborne, Xavier Sims, 6'3", 300, David Oakey, 6'2", 314, and Reginald Vaughn, 6'2", 300, probably a little bit more versatile, that knows that defensive tackle spot. They brought back a number of defensive linemen. Like, if there's only 26 scholarship players back from last year, don't you think it's interesting that they brought 4 defensive linemen back who were in that freshman class? Only 10 or 11 players back from that 2025 recruiting class from last year, and a significant number are defensive linemen. In fact, I think only Kevin Otis is the only one that entered the transfer portal from that group. So I think that's interesting. I also think it's interesting when you consider like 3 running backs are back from that group of 26 last year. Braylon Russell, trimmed up, Markalen Batten, and who's the other one? Who am I forgetting? Oh, Cam Settles. I also think it's interesting that, like, you look at the updated roster, Braylon was 238 last year. Now he's 235. He looks clearly trimmer than he was last year. So either this weight is off or last year's weight was off, because he is noticeably, you can see he's slimmer. And maybe he's moved weight around or whatever. He's still big, in the legs and butt and everything. He's still got all that. But, you can definitely tell he's trimmed up. And then Cam Settles, on the other hand, Cam Settles was 5'11", 206 last year. Now he's 5'11", 207. He is noticeably more yoked up, noticeably bigger. So I don't know. It's hard to trust sometimes. And I love, like, weight room numbers, speed numbers. I'm always big on, like, roster building, like what people have done in the offseason, how they've changed their bodies and stuff. And sometimes it's a little frustrating when the weights aren't as updated as I would personally like to geek out on. Yeah, that's pretty much most of it right there. Hey, Walker Brothers, if you haven't stopped by Walker Brothers and checked out their brand new location, then you really should, because it's nothing like it in Northwest. I know I keep saying that, but, like, it's true. Like Blakeman's and Walker Brothers, who are both in Bentonville, and Walker Brothers is also in Fayetteville, but both of those have new stores, and they are just really outstanding. I mean, when you walk into Walker Brothers, it's like being in a club, and they've got, everything from, like, all your men's clothing, like, and there's not anywhere up here that really just takes care of men. Like, you can get some really nice clothes, and not just clothes, but, shoes, belts. You can get fitted for a suit. You can go in there and hang out. You're going to go in there. They're going to offer you a beverage. You're going to, shop around, mingle. There's, I know one former Razorback in there that works, or unless he was last time I was in there at the Fayetteville store. Big Razorback supporters, big Razorback fans. With the Coles family, but they bring you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last, fit right, and help you look your best, from game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear. So they're in Fayetteville at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6. They've been there for a number of, as long as I can remember. They used to actually be on the square ages ago, but they've been there at 577 Millsap Road for a long time. But their brand new location is 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. Go check them out. Tell them Trey Biddy sent you. All right, should we get to some questions now? We've had a lot of questions because I did a Q&A on the Razor's Edge forum, just answering everybody's questions, just like we do. Joshua 11 says, Trey, after watching some clips of practice, Trent Sellers, 43, looks like a monster. Any chance he gets to play this year? There's a chance. He has gotten bigger. I noticed him last year. as being, definitely a defensive end type. He reminded me a little bit, not quite as big as Quincy, but he reminded me a little bit of Quincy last year, just body type wise. Play this year, he will be a redshirt freshman. I think that there is a chance he could help, but also I think you're probably going to be more reliant on some of the, guys who are a year or two older that you brought in from the transfer portal to play on the defensive line. So, but yeah, I think he's got a future. I think anybody that they brought back from last year's team, it probably says a lot, that they brought him back. So, Music Sui says, what is Pringle's status? We don't know yet. We just know he's listed as questionable. And that's a big thing. I mean, that impacts my roster or my bracket enough to where I went back and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if Arkansas, it was 6 players, what you got, Malik Ewan and Trevin Brazil down low, like what if one of those guys get in foul trouble? Like, that's scary to me. And it's one of the scary things with having, a roster like Arkansas does that's very top heavy, because you put all your money into the big name guys. And, after that, you're not going to go get a guy that's, you're going to pay a lot of money who's just going to ride the bench. Ohio State's coming back. Ohio State is only down 3 with 12:38 left to TCU, 43-40 right now. So, yeah, that worries me. Even though Pringle's not like a big stats guy, he does some things that are frustrating at times, but he's still a presence down low, and he can still take fouls at the least. So, Music Sui also adds, if Pringle isn't a go, then does Sealy get some minutes? Yeah, I think they have to play, go smaller. Does Sealy get some more minutes, or they go a different direction just to have a body against big fish? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they haven't relied at all on the foreign players that they brought in, aside from the Alabama game where Visich came in. But yeah, I don't. It's a little concerning to me against a team Hawaii who has a lot of size down low. MDW says, what if anything has stood out to you about the way this new staff conducts football practices to previous staffs? So, one of the things I was looking for early on was just how the structure of practice is, the organization of it. And I've been pleased with that. I have said many times that, at the time when Chad Morris first got here and practice is being run and it feels like utter chaos. And I had told myself, it's like, okay, this is how they want it to be. Chaotic, the games will feel less chaotic if the practices are more chaotic, That's like what I'm telling myself. The eternal optimist, I guess. But yeah, soon after looking back on that, I was just like, man, that was a sign that there's going to be a lot of disorganization, a lot of dysfunction with this football program. And there just was from that point on, game days and everything. Aside from recruiting, you got to give them credit for the job that they did recruiting. But I just remember Morris had this headset on. It's hooked up to the loudspeaker. It's cutting in and out. It's not working. He's trying to get it to work. This is how practice is starting. There's a drone flying overhead, players going past me, going past each other. It's just chaos to me. These are not that dissimilar to the way Pittman's were structured. There's different drills and things, but like the defensive line and the offensive line are still in the same spot. The quarterbacks are in the same spot as they were. The defensive backs are roughly in the same spot, although they're actually a little bit farther over. But everybody's kind of in the same spots on the 2 outdoor practice fields, which Tuesday was the first outdoor practice. They play music, but it doesn't feel overpowering. It's more like background music. I don't feel like it's like super loud. It's more background music, and it's not playing all the time. During like heavy instruction periods, there's no music. Special teams periods and stuff, I noticed there was no music. So Silverfield, moves station to station like Pittman did, going station to station. I think the biggest thing for them is probably better finances, better resources. I mean, when you look at around the football program and the support staff, and there's a number of coaches that are out on the field, And just from people I've talked to about, having more money. And, I'll say this too, like, and I've been kind of critical of some things with Arkansas. They had the $15 million resolution, and I'm still looking into like some of the things, how things can be done. It sounds like they feel like they might be able to make up for. So for those that don't know, University of Arkansas is supposed to give $6 million to the athletic department originally as part of the $15 million resolution. The university figures out $5 million to raise extra. Excuse me, I get this confused. I say this backwards. Let me start over. The athletic department has to raise $5 million additional on its own. That's not the patches and stuff. It's separate than that. So they have to figure out that. They quit giving basically paying rent, which was 3%, I believe, to the university. Last year, that was $4.4 million. It was projected to be $5 million this year. And the university has to figure out a way to get $6 million back to the athletic department. The way that they figured out how to get ends up being $3.4 million is changing things like the athletic department shouldn't be paying for the band. That's like $500,000 or something. So now that the university takes on the band, the transit stuff during game day, the university will cover that. Some of the other concession stands, like maybe alcohol or something, certain things like that. Now, so some revenue that was going on game days that was going to the university is now going to the football team. Some of the expenses that the football team was paying is now being, expensed by the university. And that's for all sports, and not just football, but it's also basketball, all the sports. I just say football because that's where my mind is right now. So that resulted in $3.4 million. So one of the things that I said and others is, why not charge a student athletics fee? It comes out to $77 per student. And here's one of the things that I've heard, and I'm looking into this, as why Arkansas probably doesn't want that. And the reason, it's kind of been mocked and stuff a little bit, including by me, about, it's great to be self-sustaining of a 2-10 football team. The self-sustaining athletic department's great, but why are you? Here's a reason behind that. Okay. Once you start taking money elsewhere and you're not a self-sustaining athletic department, now you're talking about other people having to sign off on your stuff. So say you want to spend $25,000 on some new weights. Okay. That used to be a quick decision. Now, if you take money from outside the athletic department, somebody else has to sign off on that. Somebody else is going to review and read that. And, it makes something that might have taken an hour or less is now maybe going to take a week or longer. And if it's a big expenditure, like, the VR setup that they have and everything, costs a lot of money. If it's something like that, then you could be talking about a month or more, who knows? It's in somebody else's hands now. So that's something that's kind of interesting to think about and say, okay, do we really want to make up, $2.6 million here, or do we want to let the athletic department figure out ways to maybe raise that money instead of the student athletics fee? It's a different perspective than I've had before. And I've said before, I'm one of those people that love to be proven wrong. I'm not a dig my heels in kind of guy. So if there's different, information out there as to why maybe this would be a better avenue, then I want to hear it. And if you can change my mind, then I'm open to having my mind changed. I'm not one of those people that get on Facebook and try to talk politics like you're going to change somebody's mind. But face-to-face conversation, stuff like that, I can get on board with that. Okay, let's see if we got any more questions on here. All my buddies are going to Back Nine Golf right now. They're watching NCAA tournament games. If you haven't been to the Back Nine Golf, it's worth checking out. You can actually book a free demo. This is in Fayetteville. It's the only Back Nine Golf in Fayetteville. They got 4 hitting bays. One of them is their VIP bay where they've got a pool table. They've got, seating. They've got a bar, all this stuff. Be great for, NCAA tournament. Be great for fantasy football draft, stuff like that. Play golf, mess around, BYOB, whatever you want to do. But it's right over there by, like where Green Acres is. Like we're at V's, there's a CrossFit, there's Ash, and there's that McDonald's over there. It's like right over there, kind of back behind that CrossFit. But they got 4 hitting bays. They got a couple massage chairs, plenty of seating, ton of TVs. That bar I mentioned, pool table. They've got the full swing simulators, which measure everything with like so when you hit the screen, it immediately goes. It's like not a delay or anything. It's been really fun. I've enjoyed going over there. But you can book a demo, and they offer several different membership deals. But go to theback9golf.com. You can hover over locations, Arkansas, Fayetteville. It's the only one in Arkansas. Go check them out. Okay. See if we got any more questions here. I know we've got a ton on just our regular thread. I might jump into some of those, see if we got comments. Let's check out our comments here. Elmer Fuddpucker says, what opinions do you set for Knox next year? Do you think he'll hit the portal if Billy returns? I don't see him having a high draft stock after this past season. Yeah, I mean, he tested the NBA waters last year. I don't know. I really don't know what to expect there. He is in Portland with them. I mean, he's obviously got a long history with Calipari and his family. So, I mean, who's to say there's not room for both Billy and Knox? I mean, there's been some talk about Billy, like looking at what his future is. I'd love for Billy to come back, but yeah, I just don't know. Interesting comment there. I just don't know the answer on that. Hawaii just lost to Long Beach State. It's going to be a hog heaven again today. Hope so. What are you talking about? Zelda fan? Let's go win the Natty, Woo Pig, says Chris Meadows. We're not going to need Pringles. We're going to need Pringles. He out for the tournament. We just know he's questionable. On the official report, he's listed as questionable. He's not out. He's not doubtful. He's questionable. The first round is skippable. You got to watch the game. Just watch it on an iPad while you're there. I'll have it on my phone. There's no question. I'm going to have it on my phone. Trey, you need to do a case study on the basketball game. Just stay and watch the game, man. Appreciate that. Burt, Turd, Ferguson, Reynolds. Say screw it and watch the game. A lot of people saying I should watch the game. Hey, Trey, how do you think Arkansas will go in the tournament? I initially thought I could see him in the Final Four. And it's not just like me homering it up. And yes, there's some of that. Like, I want to see this team have success. I want to put a stamp on this team. And I think putting a stamp on this team, means making a little bit of noise, maybe upsetting Arizona. We're always going to remember this squad because of what Darius Acuff did. And it's been such a fun team to watch. I would love it if DJ Wagner really got going. He was knocking down some threes in practice yesterday. I would love it if DJ Wagner gets going, he played a lot better last year. I'm not breaking any news there. Like, if they could get him going, that would be pretty sweet. But I want to see them, not that they haven't, because they won the SEC, tournament. They finished 3 in conference play, where they go 13-5 this year. Darius Acuff won a million awards and did a bunch of things that had never been done before. Got a ton of momentum also. Like, I almost feel like, as far as like a player of the year type of thing right now, like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Darren McFadden when he goes in as the Heisman Trophy front runner. And that was the first year that, like, a guy didn't go wire to wire. Like, Troy Smith was the last wire to wire Heisman Trophy winner, and Darren kind of got caught in the middle of that because, like, he's just a sophomore, no sophomore had won it at that time. Next year will be his year. And then they change it. It's kind of like 1964 with the national championship. Arkansas won, but the other one, like they voted on the national championship for the bowl games, and I think they awarded Alabama. And then they changed it the next year because Alabama lost the bowl game and Arkansas won. Arkansas is the only undefeated team. So it was like, Arkansas kind of caught in the middle there of not being the unanimous national championship winner. And then Darren McFadden kind of caught in that too. I know I'm going off on a weird tangent, but the next year, Tim Tebow had that surge. Tim Tebow surged at the end. And ever since then, the Heisman Trophy winner has kind of been a guy that surges at the end for the most part. There's exceptions to everything. But for the most part, the Heisman Trophy winner is not the guy that starts off the season as the favorite. Surges. So I kind of feel like that with Darius Acuff right now. He is the media darling right now. Everybody's talking about how good he is, whether he should be the number one pick, all this kind of stuff. So I don't know why I went off on that or where I started with that, but I appreciate everybody saying I should stay home. Okay. How far do I think they'll go in the tournament? That was the question. Okay, let's see if we got anything that want to jump out. Initial thoughts on the DBs compared to last year's group. I don't know if did we talk about the pro day numbers? They were terrible as far as speed goes for Arkansas's secondary. I mean, very unimpressive, very disappointing, and very telling as to why they struggled so much last year, at least part of it. Obvious upgrade? I think so. I hope so. I'm not just like, again, blown away with what happened at safety, but because I do feel like they missed on some targets there. I don't feel like it was as egregious at other spots. Maybe Caton Hauser, the quarterback from East Carolina that they were going to bring in, they never were able to bring in because Illinois locked him up. But for the most part, it seemed like most spots they went out, they had a guy in mind and they went out and got him. Jasper Parker at running back, he was a guy that, he's from a suburb of New Orleans, and David Johnson's from New Orleans. David Johnson knew about him since the 8th grade and, recruited him at Florida State. He ends up going to Michigan though. And, when he hit the portal with Sharon Moore and all that stuff happening and, the uncertainty with the coaching staff, he hit the portal and then, that's a no-brainer for Arkansas. They targeted him. They went and they got him. Several other players like that on this roster that they, maybe had some kind of relationship somebody did, and they went and got Christian Harrison, from Cincinnati. Who Eddie Hicks was at Cincinnati, so the defensive backs coach. So what I would like to see happen, actually, you've got Tyler Scott, who was very highly regarded at Auburn. Tyler Scott was actually committed to Arkansas State at one point, and then he exploded. 4-star recruit. Everybody comes after him, decommits, ends up at Auburn. Then after 1 year at Auburn, he transfers to Georgia State. Not sure what happened there, but a guy that was viewed as very good, high-quality guy, but he transfers to Georgia State. Now he's at Arkansas playing nickel. So at nickel, they've got Christian Harrison, Kamori House, who Kamori House played linebacker at North Carolina, led them in tackles last year. He was a 4-star transfer. I wasn't aware that the plan was to move Kamori House to nickel, but he's never going to be a 230-pound guy, as they said. I think he's listed at 205 right now. He's actually lost about 10 pounds. So he's at the nickel. To me, if Kamori House can be your nickel, maybe you look at Christian Harrison at safety. And I know that they'll move things around. They'll do different things. They'll try to be multiple and stuff. But if you can put Christian Harrison at safety, or Tyler Scott, maybe he moves to safety. Or maybe he's, your backup nickel or something. But if he is, maybe that allows you, to me, to move one of those guys to safety. And safety, to me, is an area where you're a bit concerned. So they've got Carter Stoutmire, Miguel Mitchell back from last year. I know there's mixed reviews on Miguel Mitchell, who entered the portal and then came back out of the portal. And they've got some other guys, some lesser-known guys at safety. But safety is the one area where I'm like, where's the stud? Like, I can look pretty much most places and be like, they got some guys that I really, really liked at basically everywhere. At cornerback, linebacker, I don't know that they got a starter, but I think Phoenix Jackson could be really good, and they've got Bogle and the kid from Baylor, forgetting his name, the other guy from Baylor. Defensive line, several guys. Offensive line, several guys. Wide receiver, several guys. did not get a quarterback other than A.J. Hill, but they didn't get the proven quarterback that I talked about wanting to see a lot, because all this stuff, guys, all this stuff that they've done, they could have a roster that can compete in the SEC, but if you mess up at quarterback and you don't have a guy there who's a difference maker, you have to have like a difference maker. You got to protect him and stuff. You got to have weapons, but you got to have a guy that's a difference maker at quarterback. And if you don't have that, then all this is really for naught. Like, you're not going to have a good team without a good quarterback. You're just not. Okay, unless you're like Ohio State or something. Ohio State, they've got a good quarterback too. They got saying, but Alabama, Georgia's maybe a good example. They've got their quarterback was okay. So if you're Arkansas, you've got to have a stud at quarterback. So they need one of these guys to be a stud, because it doesn't matter with everybody else what you got if you don't have the quarterback. Sometimes the offensive line can make the quarterback look a lot better. All right, everybody. We've gone about an hour today. I appreciate everybody hopping on. Appreciate everybody saying I should watch the game, but I feel like I need to do the job. So the dedication is real. All right, everybody. I'll be watching on my phone. Appreciate you joining me. Thanks to Connor Goodson for his take from Portland. Everybody follow Connor on X at Connor Goodson and read his content. Does a great job for us. All right, everybody. Appreciate you. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. Catch you next time. Oh, I got to mention this, by the way. We're back. Spring break next week, we won't have a show. So we will be off. I might do something like maybe a walk and talk, but, my daughter's in junior high. We go on spring break trips. Got to be part of the family, right? So we will be doing that. So won't have a show next week, but I might do a little bit of reporting since we do have the NCAA tournament going on. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. Trey Biddy, Hog Sports. Catch you next time.